All right, guys, so welcome. Thank you guys for joining us. We have Krista Goodrich today, the boss lady investor. I'm so glad you have joined us. How are you doing today?
Doing excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, today's a good day. I'm so excited to hear, have you share your story. We talked a little bit before and stuff, and you have such a cool story about how you got started. But first, tell me a little bit more, where you're from, your background.
Sure. So I was born in Florida, but raised mostly in Georgia, and was always a Florida girl. Loved the sunshine, loved the beach, loved all water sports, loved everything about the ocean. And so just always wanted to get back to Florida. But as time went on, I was never getting offered a job in Florida. So I didn't have an excuse to move down here until I started Airbnb and eventually was able to move back down to Florida. So I now happily live in the Sunshine State, where, it's warm. Today I've been complaining all day long that it's freezing. We're in the middle of winter here and it's 61 degrees and nobody that I complain to feels sorry for me at all.
Right.
So, so happy to live in Florida, happy to be here, but did spend a significant amount of time in Georgia, went to school in Tennessee and Louisiana, go Tigers, and also in Paris, France. So have lived a few places, but the majority in Georgia and Florida.
That actually surprised me. You spent a good amount of time in Paris, in France?
Yeah, quite a bit. I was an exchange student growing up, which probably made me a little more ahead of the curve when Airbnb and this type of environment came out, because I'd done that as an exchange student, and we always had exchange students growing up when I was a kid. So it wasn't weird to have a strange person that you didn't know in your house.
Right. And culturally, even you're probably used to that. That's so awesome. Very cool. So how did you get started? Let's hear the story.
Okay, so my husband and I lived in a golf community in Georgia. We were doing great. I was an entrepreneur. He has a good job, and we're really good at saving money. And we'd been saving and got to a point at a pretty young age where we could afford to buy a vacation home. We thought we could. So we didn't know any of what was actually involved in that, but we thought we could. So we looked in several different cities and were coerced, and I will use the word coerced intentionally, by his uncle to come to Daytona Beach and check out what they had to offer here. Full disclosure, I did not like Daytona Beach at the time. My mom and sister used to bring all the kids, mine included, down here every year. I would avoid the trip like the plague because I just did not like Daytona. I liked the west coast of Florida.
Is there a reason why?
The Daytona, it still has some of these issues. Why it's a great place to buy, but Daytona got established mostly in 1954, and then its heyday was in the early 90s, which I don't think you're going to remember the way I do, but it was in the early 90s when MTV Spring Break was here. And it was a rockin' and rollin', kick-ass kind of town. The city chased out spring break. And once they did that, the economy changed significantly. And then add into that the recession in the mid-2000s. And Daytona is a lot of empty storefronts. There's a lot of vacant buildings. And so that brings some poverty. Yeah. And so Daytona, to me, it's a significantly better now. But back then it was just really dirty, and they had some homeless situations going on. There's just reasons that I preferred other beach towns. So I'm always open, though, to what other people will share with me. So Colin's uncle had us, he was like, just fly down for one day, check everything out. So I flew down. Colin was out of town. I wanted to look at 6 condos and quickly realized that with my giant, large 3 dogs that are not well behaved, they would not only not be allowed in the condos, but even if I snuck them in, they are so loud that I would never get away with it. So my uncle also convinced me to start looking at single family homes. And he explained all the things that were happening, all the development that was going on in Daytona, why it was cleaning up, why it was an excellent place to invest. He was spot on. I bought the first house that I own, I still own it, for $194,000 in 2014. And it's a 5-bedroom, 2-bath, which that part's odd. It's got an in-ground pool. It's about a 1/4 acre of land, fully fenced in, hot tub, fire pit, massive living room, plus a ping pong room, plus a giant laundry room, great kitchen. It can sleep 20 people. And Yeah, I didn't realize that when I was looking at it, because I was not looking at it to Airbnb. I was looking at it to buy as a vacation home for myself.
Yeah.
So we bought it, and a month or two in, after we pulled down old wallpaper and done some minor renovations, I was pretty familiar with Airbnb. My husband had found it many years before in a little newspaper article, and we were interested in it. And also one of the founders actually graduated from my high school. So Joe Gebbia graduated from my high school. And
throw his face up there. That's so cool.
Yes,
What high school was it?
It's Brookwood High School in Snellville, Georgia. Oh. And I actually didn't know Joe. He's 5 years younger than me. But the reason I even found out he was a founder, I was listening to a podcast on, I want to say it was Joe Rogan or Aubrey Mark. It was a podcast I was listening to, and they interviewed him, and he was talking about this high school that he went to and the senior prank that was played years before, where a senior group stole a horse off this place called Horsetown, USA, stole a horse off the top of the building and put it on the top of our school because we were the Broncos. I'd just like to say that is my senior class that did that. We are proud vandals. Oh, so I started researching, and we had just had our 20-year class reunion, so to date myself. And I messaged everyone like, did Joe Gebbia go to our high school? And everyone's like, yeah, like he was 5 years younger. And so Anyway, so cool story there. But
that's cool. Yeah,
so I put the house out on Airbnb. I said, let's just try it. Knew nothing about what I was doing. And I got someone to pay $1,600 to rent my house for a week. My mortgage was $715. So I looked at that and said, holy shit, if I can duplicate this, I can have a vacation home that someone else is paying for, and I can use it whenever I want and still have the pool bill, the lawn, the utility, everything covered just by renting it 1 week a month. Yeah. Multiply that by 4 weeks a month, or an average of 36 weeks a year, and it was going to be good money. Yeah. It was such good money that, and 1,600 was way too low, by the way. I just didn't know any better. So it was such good money. That was the week of the Daytona 500. I now get about $4,000 for that week.
And what is that, the Daytona 500?
It's a NASCAR race.
Oh, cool.
It's the most famous NASCAR race in the world. I am not a NASCAR fan and nothing against it. I'm sure it's great for those that love it. Daytona is a NASCAR and motorcycle town. I am neither a NASCAR or a motorcycle person, but I appreciate the events and welcome anyone that's coming to support our events here in Daytona. Yeah. So I now go to the NASCAR events, and I actually have a motorcycle these days, but didn't at the time. So anyway, long story short, I said, let's duplicate this process, started duplicating it, ended up buying my second property 6 months later, paid cash for it. I split it with my cousin. And that house we again bought for $196,000, I think, on that one. It's now worth probably $350 to $400 conservatively. Yeah. And it equally started booking just as fast. So now I had an issue that I have 2 vacation homes in Florida. I live in Georgia, and I can't get a day to go to the beach because it's so booked. And so I just said, let's keep doing this. And so then I started buying more and more and more. And some of them, it made more sense to turn into long-term rentals. So I did that with some of them. And so just kept growing. And then we moved from the house in Georgia to a farm in Georgia once my daughter graduated, because it was just me and my husband. We did not need anywhere near the square footage we had. So a friend of mine who's actually coming to visit me in Daytona today, he's on his way here now. He's my best friend from high school. His parents had 2 horses that they were looking to get rid of because they couldn't care for them anymore. I have this farm, so they gave me their horses, which are now a key feature in my Airbnb up there. And I bought this tiny A-frame, little 1,900 square foot farmhouse, and it's got rivers and streams and bridges. And we did not, at this point, I'd been Airbnbing for 5 years in Florida. I did not ever think that a farm in Oakwood, Georgia would be a good Airbnb investment. I thought it would be my farm for when I was in Georgia with my dogs and my husband. That's where we'd stay. And that way we'd never have to bother my parents or sister when I came in town. Then we moved to Florida full time. And I wanted to keep my horses, and I wanted to keep my farmhouse, and I didn't want to long-term rent it because that's annoying. So I said, let's just see what happens. And I put it on Airbnb. And I'm proud to say that if you go to my farmhouse calendar on Airbnb, you cannot get a reservation until January. And only because I just had someone cancel a big reservation, but it's fine. We're going to rebook it in a second.
Yeah.
But it is so booked that I now run into the same issue in Georgia that I have to pre-schedule 6 months in advance if I want to go to the farm, because otherwise I won't get it.
Right.
It's my business Airbnb, and
that's great.
Turned it into a wedding venue as well. So.
Oh, that's right. You were saying, and honestly, that's like the goal, is to have your Airbnb like so like kind of occupancy, like where people are just staying, where you have to compete with everyone in a sense, because it's so popular. It's so
popular, and I get so many repeaters now that several of the properties, it's third of the year is just repeat customers, which are great. They're going to give you a great review. They're going to be realistic in their expectations. They're cool, or you're not going to let them rebook again.
Right.
Repeaters are great, but you've got to have a unique product to make someone repeat.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, and you said you're turning it into a wedding venue. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So it's beautiful. I say 7 acres, it's 6.5, but it's got these gorgeous streams and natural landscaping that's just phenomenal. And so we had someone come to us that we knew and asked if they could get married on our property. And so I said, yeah, let's see how it goes. Well, it went great. And so then, I'm an opportunist, and I saw an opportunity and said, well, let's put it out there. Let's see if our Airbnb guests would be interested in booking it as a wedding venue as well. Yeah. So we listed it now. Side note, back in August of this year, there were 50 house parties thrown in Atlanta. And after that, Airbnb has now required that you can't host more than 16 guests at a time, and you're not allowed to have events at your facilities.
Interesting.
My farm was one of those 50 houses.
Oh, wow.
We had $10,000 in damage, and not to scare anyone out there, it's fine. It's all been more than replaced. But
you have insurance.
Yeah, we have insurance. Airbnb gave a little bit of the money, so it's fine. But so now we are using a different platform to market weddings, because Airbnb won't allow you to market events right now.
Got it.
Once COVID's over, I think Airbnb will go back to allowing that. They just don't want the liability of big groups, which is fair.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now we market it on other platforms that we use, and so it's great. Now we're actually building a 2,000 square foot wedding barn on the property to make an even better wedding venue. So yeah, and it's a huge, like, if I rent the house for the weekend for $600 for a Friday and Saturday night, that $600, if it's a wedding, turns into a $2,000 do-it-yourself wedding.
Yeah.
So, and I rent porta potties for them so that my bathrooms aren't getting torn up.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, so it doesn't cost me any more money. It's a do-it-yourself wedding, so I don't have to do anything. I connect them with vendors. So if they have tent rentals or anything like that, it's all on them, and I make triple my money.
Yeah, and honestly, it helps with the consumer too, people who want to have a really unique wedding.
Mm-hmm. And all the people that come to the wedding then see the house and they want to stay there, and so it's nice.
It just keeps snowballing.
Yes. Yeah. The house I'm at now, as we actually have turned that into also a wedding venue / rental property.
Say that again.
The house I'm sitting in right now is actually both a wedding venue and Airbnb property.
And where are you right now?
I'm in Ormond Beach, Florida, which is 5 miles north of Daytona.
Awesome.
So I'm at the Seaside Serenity House.
Okay, you have to tell me about what's going on in Daytona Beach, and kind of like there's kind of like a legal, like a dispute. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so if you're just getting into Airbnb, it is imperative that you learn a few things about your city. So 7 years ago, these were non-issues because very few people were Airbnb-ing. Now these are issues in every tourist town, and most towns in general. So my farm is in Oakwood, Georgia, Gainesville, Georgia. It is not a tourist town, and they still have Airbnb regulations, excellent ones, mind you. Congratulations, Hall County, for having excellent government.
Good.
Excellent regulations in place to protect homeowners, both Airbnb homeowners and homeowners that are full-time residents. A lot of cities, unfortunately, are somewhat anti-Airbnb.
Right.
And so Daytona Beach is one of them. I initially started renting, had no issues, all was well. And then in 2017, I got a notification that I was doing something wrong. And I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So it turns out that in the city of Daytona Beach, in most zones, not every zone, but almost every zone, you have to rent for 6 months or longer.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. So I contacted an attorney. Me and another lady, Mary Sink, sent letters out to every homeowner in the area that lived out of state that was possibly Airbnb-ing. And we put together a massive group of individuals that eventually we sued the city of Daytona because we still believe that they do not have what's called a grandfathering clause. I'm not going to get into all the specifications, but if anyone in Florida is listening, they probably are aware of this. But in 2011, the state of Florida recognized vacation rentals as a huge portion of our economy, and the state as a whole welcomes tourism, wants tourism, and welcomes growth and change. The smaller cities don't all agree. So you've probably heard a lot about Miami has been a big one in the headlines. Daytona's been one. And the cities in 2011, the state said, if you don't have rules and regulations in place prohibiting vacation rentals, then individual cities cannot add more rules. The city of Daytona in 2015, so 4 years after that was passed a new land development code. They repealed the old code and added new rules in about vacation rentals.
Okay.
That should not be allowed.
Right.
Because of the 2011 ruling.
Right. But they contradict each other.
Yeah. So we sued the city. The city of Daytona, with its current status, and we've had some recent changes that I'm hopeful will be very positive once these people go in place in January. But in its current state, is as corrupt as Chicago. And I'm on record to say that because we have a very corrupt city that is ruled very much so by the hotel industry.
Now it's making more sense. I'm like, wait, why wouldn't they want tourism? Like, who doesn't want people to come and spend money in their city? Like,
They market it as that there's all these complaints about noise violations and trash violations and parking violations. I actually went through the code and pulled every violation since 1993. And
I love this. This is so good. Okay.
Since 1993, there's been like 4 violations ever against a short-term rental for parking, trash, or noise.
Wow. 4. That's
All right. Against long-term rentals, thousands.
Yeah, of course.
But long-terms are allowed. So it's unfortunately, like I'm a fan of hotels. I'm not anti-hotels. It's sad to me that hotels are anti-us because every client's different. So there's people that love staying in a hotel. They love the big pools and they love the service to bring drinks to you in your lounge chair, and that's their cup of tea. There is also a huge group of people out there like ourselves that much prefer to rent a home. And especially, I think it's irresponsible on cities' parts at this point with COVID to not allow home sharing, because for me to come, I'm in a beautiful house right now that when my brother comes next week with his mother-in-law who has cancer, he can stay here very comfortably. He can enjoy the beach, he can enjoy a pool, all the things he wants to enjoy and never come in contact with another human being. He cannot do that at a hotel.
Right.
So I am in this is a very legal zoned Airbnb house that I'm in right now, but there are others that I own that I've had to now fight over and fight for my rights as a homeowner to let me Airbnb them. And it's very expensive. So if you're new and don't have deep pockets to do that, because you have to have deep pockets to fight a city, then I would suggest only buying in an area that's Airbnb allowable.
Friendly. They're like,
zoned for it. We have 2 cities in our county that are awesome. They're very pro-business. They're pro-Airbnb. They're very progressive thinkers. And so here I'm a real estate investor and agent, and I represent a tremendous amount of short-term rental buyers, and we only buy in those 2 cities. And it's a shame because those 2 cities are booming, and the city of Daytona is now still in its same situation of no growth because now they're chasing out those of us that had money to improve the city.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
it is.
But I'm glad that you are doing something like you're helping change, you're fighting for for the city basically, which whether they know it or not or acknowledge it, it's like for their good. But dang, that is so cool. I'm like all for it.
And listen, I told you when we first talked, I mean, Airbnb was a game changer for us. We were doing good, so I don't want to mislead anyone. My husband and I are extremely motivated people, and I think you have to be to do this business. Because again, now it's more competitive. You have to offer a different product. You have to be unique. You can't just have a bedroom that's not cute or whatever. But anyway, so we were doing okay, and we would have had a good life. We would have had most of the things we wanted. So there's that. Airbnb was a game changer for me. We went from being pretty darn good to killing it. We can, with some limitations, do almost everything or anything we want to do at any time. We can travel, the money has been incredible. The tax benefits of buying property has been incredible. The assets that we now own, 7 years ago, I didn't need an asset protection attorney, and now I have to have one because I have so many assets that I have to protect. And so I'm 43. In 7 years, when I'm 50, I'll have so many properties that they'll be paid off in stages, but I'll have several that are paid off by then. So I could, in theory, sell a house every year for the next 50 years. And let's say the houses on average are worth $300,000. That means I could make $300,000 a year on one sale for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's great.
That's what Airbnb provided for me. And I started average, again, we were doing good, but we're talking, I had, a decent 401k plan, not crazy. Neither one of us invented anything. We didn't come from money. Neither of our parents did any real estate investing. Now we have them doing it too, of course, but, it was a game changer. So if you're thinking about it, it is absolutely worth the time and money to invest in learning about Airbnb, because it can change your life. In 5 years, we're going to get on a catamaran and circumnavigate the globe. And I'm going to be able to do that because people are paying my mortgages all over the country, really. And we're looking in Belize to buy, we're going to fly down there. Like I just told you, we're flying down there in February. So long as we're allowed to, please don't let that change.
I know, right?
Please. But so long as we're allowed to, and we're going to look at buying some property there just to diversify more. And we'll continue that in Europe, and we'll do it wherever we find a deal. So as a little girl growing up, my sister wanted to have lots of children. She has 6 now, so good job. She fulfilled that. I wanted to, at the time I said I wanted a boyfriend in every country, but a house in every country would suffice. A house in every country that I want to visit. I'm nothing against Syria, but I'm not buying anything there because I'm a little scared. But if I want a house in Egypt, let's do it. If I want a house in Italy, I now know a way that I can afford to do that. And not even pay for it. I, at this point, am not even paying for my houses. Other people basically buy them for me, and I can explain that if you want, but I'm basically getting houses for free, which is awesome.
Yeah. Feel free to explain. That's so you're a wealth of knowledge.
So I'm going to give myself a plug real quick. So I told you,
please.
The Boss Lady Investor. I wrote a book called The Boss Lady Investor. You don't need a dick to understand money. It is not anti-men. I love men. As we just said, I wanted a boyfriend in every country, and I don't want that anymore because I love my husband. But it's not anti-men. I wrote the book because women are frequently afraid of investing. Women hear the word investing and they think stocks and bonds, and our eyes glaze over and we're bored out of our mind. Millennials too, not that interested in stocks and bonds. It's kind of an older school thing. So property investing or business investing is really fun and can be extremely lucrative. So I wrote a book geared towards women that explained easy ways to get started. My first investment was $25 a month. That's all I could afford when I was 23. And it hurt to pay the $25 a month. I had to watch my friends go get their nails done, and I did not do that because I was investing $25 a month, which is $300 a year. And I basically thought I would never, ever have enough money to do anything. So anyway, I wrote this book, and in the book, it explains that's where I started. Now where I'm at is I do this. Now I've done so well that if I want to buy a house, I can buy it for cash. And so it makes me a stronger offer than other people that are offering, right? So I'll put an offer for a house in cash. What I'll normally do at this point is get a hard money loan from someone, because I don't like spending my own cash. I'm greedy like that. So I'll get a hard money from someone who knows that I'm good at what I do. Yeah. And just did this 3 weeks ago, closed on a house, got a hard money loan, took a HELOC on one of my other properties, so home equity line of credit. So again, money from the bank, not money that I've earned or anything. So I took the HELOC and the hard money loan, combined the two, bought the house. It's getting a $75,000 renovation and a pool. And in 3 months, which usually you have to wait longer on a hard money loan, but there's specific reasons on this one I can do this. Usually you have to wait a year, but in 3 months I'm refinancing the house once all the renovations are complete. So I bought the house for $225. I'm putting $75,000 into it. That's $300,000 of other people's money. I haven't spent $1 of my own yet, right? Yeah. Then when I refinance it, it's going to be probably worth about $400 once I'm done with my renovations. Yeah. So I can refinance up to 80%.
I'm tracking now.
Yeah. So I'm going to refinance. I'm going to get back all the money. So I'm going to get back the HELOC money, the money from the hard money lender, plus probably $20,000. So I'm going to get a check for $20,000 for a house that I never paid for. And now I'm going to turn around. I'll have a mortgage at that point, but I'll rent it out. My mortgage will probably be all in with, I don't escrow taxes and insurance, but if I did, it'd probably be $2,000 to $2,200. I'll rent that out for a week and make $2,200. Yeah. So for the next 15 years, which is how long I'll probably do my mortgage for, I'll dump every bit of money I make from the Airbnb into that.
Into the mortgage.
And I'll pay it off. And so I'll have never paid $1 of my money to the mortgage.
Wow.
And then and in 15 years, it'll probably be worth, just based on basic 3% increases of housing, it'll be worth probably $500,000. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to where I said at 50 years old. So I started doing this 7 years ago. So at 50 years old, I'll have these assets that are paid off, and every year I'll have a new asset paid off. So I've already paid off a couple of my houses.
Good for you. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's a pretty good place. Like if the economy tanks tomorrow, which everyone's afraid of that happening, and I get it, if you're invested in stocks and bonds or in a savings account, whatever, if you're in a stock and the economy tanks, you can withdraw your money, but that's all you got. You get whatever's left over. If the economy tanks tomorrow, and let's say even vacation rentals go out of being cool because people can't afford to travel. We have a major housing issue in the US. There's not enough rental housing. So if I needed to, I could turn my vacation rentals into long-term rental and still have a great asset. So, and I'm still not paying for it.
Right.
So I don't know a better way to invest money.
No, that's so brilliant. I would never even think to you're using other resources basically to kind of put into your resource. In a sense, you're
you have to follow it, because it gets a little crazy when you have a lot of deals going on at once. You got to make sure you're, I don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. That's never ever what I do. Sure. I'll borrow from Peter and pay it back with the bank's money. So you just have to, and there's a lot of bookkeeping that goes into it that you want to make sure. I still screw things up all the time. I sold 2 properties this year that were pretty far away from me. They were long-term rentals, so they weren't making me the money I wanted. But I've owned them one of them I owned for 6 years, one of them for 2 years. And the profits on those 2 sales was over $150,000 in profit. And which is great. Again, I didn't have to do anything while owning these houses, basically, except call a plumber every now and again. And I made $150,000 and I didn't do squat. So I got the money. I should have done a 1031 exchange, and I didn't, so that I wouldn't have been taxed on the money. So when I bought the house that I just bought a few weeks ago, I should have 1031 exchanged the money into that house, which is a way you can delay paying taxes. So I dropped the ball and I missed it. In good news, I just learned there's a reverse 1031 exchange.
Oh, wow.
Can fix my problem. But I have to do it before the end of the year, so I don't have to pay taxes on that $150. So, but again, if you're willing to do the research and learn,
Right.
That's my number one advice to Airbnb hosts. Like, don't get so caught up in what you're doing that you don't learn other things out there. There's all kinds of different revenue streams you can bring into your homes, whether it's like I have copies of my books in every Airbnb, and I sell books to clients. I have we have partners in town that if we refer them business, I might just get a $5 credit towards dinner or whatever, but over time I'm eating at places for free. We get 15% revenue from some referring partners. I'm not as active in that part of it as I should be, because I don't have to be, honestly. That's why if I needed money more, I'd definitely be more crazy about it. But there's cool things that you can do. The house that I'm in now, I work, like I said, with investors. So we'll host dinners here with our investor clients and have it catered and show them about different real estate investments. Well, then who are they going to use? They're always going to use me because they remember me. I'm doing something different.
Yeah.
Most of my clients now own their own Airbnbs.
Oh, that's so cool. That's when like it's working. Like when the people around you are becoming successful as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're not making money, I freak out. Because I just had one guy that, it's been a little more difficult the last month, I'd say. It was great. Florida's unique. One, we're the wild, wild west. We have, and I'm sorry if this offends anyone, it is just the way it is. I didn't make the rules. I just live here, but we basically act like COVID didn't happen. And I know Californians are probably angry with me right now, so I'm sorry to your fan base.
It's different between LA County and Orange County. So
okay.
It's like, it depends on where in the state you are at. Actually.
Well, here we live outside, we have our houses, but you don't spend most of your time in your house in Florida. And so it's safer to be on the beach than to be in a building with someone. So they shut down our beaches here in Volusia County for 12 hours and back in the summer, and we lost our minds. And so 12 hours later, they said, oh no, these people are going to start murdering me. Get them back on the beach, right? That's why I live here.
Like pitchforks.
Seriously, but we social distance. I mean, we're very respectful. We wear masks when we go into stores and everything, but our restaurants are open, our bars are open. So all that being said, our businesses were shut down for 3 months here, like most people, but then we've been open since June. And we saw a tremendous amount of vacation rental business going on and real estate. People are moving here in droves because if they're going to be quarantined, they want to be quarantined where it's warm. Yeah. So we've been just doing a ton of real estate, but the last 4 weeks since the numbers started to go up again, we started to see a lot of cancellations for 2021 because they're afraid that Daytona 500 or the bike weeks or the things that happen here, they're afraid they'll be canceled. So I reached out to all of my clients and said, listen, I want you to make money. That's the goal. So put yourself on Furnished Finder, which is a travel nursing site that you can host nurses for a few months because there's a huge nursing need right now. Put yourself on Zillow and list your property for 3 months for snowbirds or people coming down to look at properties. So I'm finding ways for my clients to still make money, even though the market is constantly evolving here. I think, apparently there's a vaccine. We'll see if that's true or not true. I don't know if it's really true, but if that works, then Florida is going to be on fire. I mean, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that to California, but.
I'm offended. No,
totally inappropriate. You shouldn't have had me on here. Florida's going to be on. I didn't mean that when I said that. I'm very. I love human beings, and I did not mean that in a mean way. It came out wrong, but
you're good. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So Florida's just. We're moving in 1,000 people a day in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And if you look at other states, but Florida, Texas, and Georgia, we are just
growing.
I mean, it's been awesome.
Yeah. A lot of people.
We're worried about our infrastructure not being able to support how many people we're getting.
No, that's good. I have yet to visit Florida. I'll have to visit one of these days for sure.
Well, I've definitely visited California, which is where you are, correct?
Yes, in Los Angeles.
I love California. It's awesome. It's beautiful. You guys have everything. My issues with California is the water's too damn cold. And God, it's cold.
The beach, it is cold.
So cold. And your taxes.
Yeah. No, I think all Californians can agree with that one, with the taxes.
But you guys can go snow skiing, and it's very difficult for us to. we don't have mountains. So if you like mountains, if you like seasonal changes, we don't. 61 is about as cold as we're going to get here. And for me, that's great. I don't like season change. I like hot all the time, warm water, and I fly to the mountains. So
no, that's good.
Florida.
That's good. Wow, you just have so much knowledge. I love just like so many different nuggets and stuff. So you help people to basically like find good Airbnb rentals. Is that what it is?
Yep, I make sure that they're zoned appropriately, or can be zoned appropriately. We've annexed properties for people before, and there's certain areas here where you have to do 30-day rentals, but the county will let you they don't care if you have someone in there for a week during the month, you just can only have one group of people every 30 days. So some owners that live out of state and want to use their beach house and want to buy in a certain area that only allows once a month rental, we have them rent out our event weeks. So Daytona, the reason it's so uber successful for me here is we are a very event-driven town. So in every single month of the year, we have a major event that draws people from all over the country and world. And most of them I had no clue about. We have a monster truck event. Didn't have any idea about that.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, who knew that was such a big thing? We have the International Quilter event is here. We have all the national cheerleading competitions that you see happening in Orlando. Half of them are in Daytona. So we have 4 weeks of cheerleading competitions that you're booked out. We have Jeep Beach, which is when everyone that owns a cool Jeep, myself included, comes down to the beach here. And so that's a huge week. We have Bike Week and Biketoberfest, those are your biggest money weeks of the year. We have the Speedway has races all year long. I mean, there's just 4th of July at the beach is a huge one. All summer is a big one for us. So we're very event driven. And so even if you have a property that can only be rented once a month, we have a major event week every single month that should cover at least your mortgage for that month.
Yeah.
Some of them you may still have to pay some of your utilities, but that's still not a bad deal to have a vacation home.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Wow. So what's the best way for people to contact you, reach out to you?
So follow me at The Boss Lady Investor, both on Facebook and Instagram. And you can DM me. I'm pretty open book. If anyone that wants me to speak or whatever, I love speaking engagements. I actually just had a call at noon today. I am speaking for the National Kidney Foundation's national convention in April. So I'm very excited about that. That'll probably be my biggest gig so far.
Yeah.
So that's been fun. I love teaching people about it. The cheapest way to get me is to buy the book for $14.99 on Amazon. That's got a year's worth of me really putting heart and soul into it. I'm working on my second book, The Boss Lady Real Estate Investor. Will obviously be much more real estate focused, but book 1 does talk a lot about real estate and Airbnb as well as other investments. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to get the book.
Yeah, it's good. And actually I joke because it was, again, I wrote it for women, but we have a couple colleges here locally, and one of the fraternity houses, one of the kids there works for me. I own a bar in town and some other things, and he's one of my bartenders, and he read the book and took it back to the fraternity house. And literally the fraternity guys all come up anytime I'm up there, he'll call them and they'll come up and bring their copy and have me sign it.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I laugh because I'm like, my most popular revenue source is a fraternity house. It's not really my most popular one, but it's just funny because they all come in and they're like, I'm from such and such fraternity. I'm like, I know, because you're a guy that's walking in for me to sign this book. Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. You're like a local celebrity right there.
Yeah.
Like amongst the book club readers.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
And that's why I want them to read it, so they get a good start. Like, it's not too late. You can start being financially smart. It doesn't matter how old you are, and Airbnb works at any age. The home I'm in right now, I own with my parents. It's their first Airbnb, and it is incredible. They're making a ton of money off it. It's been wonderful, and they were very, very scared about doing it.
At first.
Yeah, they're old school, and they were scared about someone sleeping in their bedroom, and then they started making the money, and like me, they got less scared.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
money makes you a lot less scared of everything.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Well, Krista, thank you so much for just taking the time to share with us so much knowledge and your experience, and hopefully people out there get inspired and kind of see that it is possible. It is possible for them to do this journey. So
yeah, feel free to edit out any of my terrible comments. I have a horrible sense of humor. I'm very sarcastic.
No, I love it.
If you know me, you know I have a kind soul. I love everyone. Just things come out of my mouth and I go with it.
No, I love it. I'm all for it. I like the dark and sarcastic humor as well. So
yeah.
okay. All right. Cool. Till next time, guys.
All right. Thanks. Bye.